If you've been doubting your own memory or replaying conversations, wondering if you're overreacting or apologizing for things you're not even sure you did wrong, take a deep breath with me. You're not alone in this, and you're definitely not broken for feeling this way. A lot of us have been in situations where someone slowly made us question ourselves, our feelings, our reality, our intuition, without us even noticing it was happening. In this video, I want to talk about the 10 subtle signs we're being gaslit and how we can properly deal with such situations. I remember a time when I walked away from a simple conversation feeling confused, even though nothing dramatic happened. Why do I feel guilty right now? Why am I second guessing myself? Why does this feel off? It wasn't a big moment, it wasn't obvious, just a quiet pattern that made me shrink a little more each time. Maybe you've had moments like that too. The small ones that make you question yourself long after the conversation ends. This video isn't to diagnose anyone in your life. It's simply to help you understand your own experience with more clarity and compassion. And number 7 is the one most people completely miss. So stay with me. We'll come back to that in just a bit. The first sign is you feel confused more often than you feel hurt. Confusion is one of the earliest signs, not because you're too sensitive, but because something in the conversation consistently doesn't match the reality you're experiencing. Some of the signs are: 1, they dismiss your feelings as crazy, dramatic, or too much. 2, they twist small details so the conversation always circles back to what you supposedly did wrong. It makes sense if that leaves you doubting yourself. Confusion is not a character flaw. It's a response to inconsistency. So when you feel that wave of confusion, I want you to try and pause and ask yourself, what actually happened? In simple facts. Writing it down helps anchor you. Maybe you share that something hurt your feelings, and instead of listening, the other person says, no, that never happened. Or you're remembering it wrong. And suddenly you're defending your memory instead of your feelings. But here's what most people don't realize. Confusion usually shows up before the bigger signs, which leads me to my next point. Your reality keeps getting invalidated. A subtle sign of gaslighting is when your experiences are consistently minimized, questioned, or reframed to suit someone else's version of events. Some of the signs include: 3, they downplay things you clearly witness. 4, they shift blame in ways that make you feel responsible for their actions. It makes sense if this leaves you feeling off balance. Anyone would start doubting themselves in that situation. So the next time this happens, I want you to try gently saying to this person, I hear your perspective and I also know what I experienced. You're not arguing, you're simply affirming yourself. Maybe you bring up something hurtful, they said, and they respond with, I never said that. Or you're imagining things, even though the memory is vivid and real. And this is where things start to change, because once you notice this pattern, you start to see the next sign even more clearly. Your emotional needs become evidence against you. This is one of the most overlooked signs. 5, you start apologizing for your feelings. 6, your emotional reactions get used against you. And 7, you feel guilty just for needing something. This is the subtle one. It makes sense if you've been conditioned to feel this way, especially if someone has taught you directly or indirectly that your needs are too much or inconvenient. Having emotions is not a flaw. Having needs is not a burden. When the guilt hits, try reframing it. Remind yourself, my needs are human. They are not a problem. You ask for reassurance or clarity or fairness. And instead of addressing it, the other person says, you're needy or overthinking. And once that guilt sets in, another pattern usually follows. You start distrusting your own mind. Gaslighting often leads to self-doubt, not because you're confused, but because someone taught you to doubt yourself. Some of the included signs are: 8, you second-guess your memory, even for small things. 9, you find yourself apologizing constantly, even when nothing is your fault. I want to remind you, if you've been made to question your own clarity, that says more about the situation than it does about you. I want you to start noticing and ask yourself, when you apologize, I want you to ask yourself, is this apology coming from me or from fear? It's a small practice that builds self-trust again. You feel smaller than you actually are. The last subtle sign is that you start shrinking your personality, your intuition, your voice, not because you want to, but because it feels safer. The signs include: 10, you adjust yourself constantly to avoid conflict, tension, or criticism. It makes sense if you've been doing this, because people learn to shrink themselves when they don't feel emotionally safe. So if you feel that way, I want you to begin noticing one tiny moment a day where you can express yourself honestly, even in the smallest way. No big confrontations, just one honest moment. Here's the truth. When someone makes you question your reality, you don't become weaker. You become disconnected from yourself. And once you reconnect, once you start trusting your own inner voice again, things begin to shift. You realize you're not too sensitive or too emotional or too much. You're a human being who deserves clarity, respect, and emotional safety. You're allowed to trust yourself again. You're allowed to listen to that quiet, steady voice inside you. You're allowed to take up space. Tonight, before you go to bed, write one sentence. I'm learning to trust myself again. That's it. Nothing more. Just one small step back towards your inner truth. If this helped you feel seen or understood, the next video I'm creating is about how to rebuild your self-trust after emotional manipulation or confusion. And if you like gentle, grounded support as you grow, I truly love to have you here. We are healing slowly, softly together. Thank you so much for watching. Have a lovely day, and I'll see you in my next video.